The Mafia boss thought nothing could shake him, until his maid bravely saved his daughter from a violent guest. That moment of courage forces everyone to question power, loyalty, and revenge. Stay tuned to see the twist that shocked the whole house. Thank you for sticking around with me, and welcome back, my wonderful story family. If you're already hooked in for today's story and ready to enjoy it, click subscribe and let me know in the comments where you're watching from. Because tomorrow, I will be giving you another story just as interesting as this one. And you don't want to miss it. Now, back to the story. The Moretti mansion wasn't a home. It was a mausoleum built for the living, constructed of imported marble, cold ambition, and silence. It sat on the edge of Newark like a fortress, its wrought iron gates serving less as a welcome and more as a warning. To the outside world, Vincent Moretti was a legitimate businessman, a logistics magnate who moved freight across the eastern seaboard. To the people who actually lived in the city, he was a ghost story with a bank account, a man who could make a union strike disappear with a phone call or a rival disappear with a nod. Inside the house, the air always felt thinner, as if the oxygen was being hoarded by the high ceilings. Nia Thompson adjusted the white apron over her black uniform, catching her reflection in the polished silver of a serving tray. She looked tired, but her posture remained steel-rod straight. That was Grandma Pearl's doing. Slouching is for people who don't know their worth, Pearl would say, usually while snapping peas on their front porch in the ironbound district. You walk into that lion's den with your head high, Nia. You're there to work, not to cower. Nia exhaled a breath she felt she'd been holding since she clocked in at 4 that afternoon. She wasn't cowering, but she was certainly calculating. Every hour in this house was a calculation. The overtime pay from tonight's gala would cover 3 months of her brother Andre's community college tuition, plus the books he needed for his engineering courses. Andre was smart, brilliant actually, but brilliance didn't pay for bus fare or textbooks. Sweat gathered at the nape of her neck, hidden by her collar. The staff kitchen was bustling with the organized chaos of a military operation. Caterers in white coats shouted orders about canapes and chilled shrimp, while the house staff, Nia included, moved like shadows, designed to be present but unseen. Nia, the head housekeeper, Mrs. Weaver, snapped, her voice tight with the specific anxiety of someone terrified of Vincent Moretti. Check the East Wing parlor. Mr. Moretti doesn't want any dust on the mantel before the senator arrives. And find Bella. The nanny says she's hiding again. Nia nodded, grabbing her polishing cloth. Yes, ma'am. Finding Bella Moretti wasn't hard if you knew how to look. The other staff members looked for a spoiled rich girl. Nia looked for a lonely child. She made her way through the service corridors, stepping out into the grand hallway. The house was already transforming. Florists were arranging lilies that cost more than Nia's car, and musicians were tuning cellos in the ballroom. But Nia turned away from the noise, heading toward the library. She found her in the window seat, hidden behind a velvet curtain that was heavy enough to smother a man. Bella Moretti was 7 years old, tiny for her age, with dark curls that seemed too heavy for her head and eyes that held a perpetual haunting silence. Since her mother had passed away 3 years ago in an accident nobody discussed, Bella hadn't spoken a word to anyone in the family. Not to her uncles, who smelled of cigars and gunpowder. Not the expensive child psychologists Vincent flew in from Zurich. Bella sat clutching a worn-out teddy bear, staring out at the sprawling lawn where security guards with earpieces patrolled the perimeter. I thought I'd find you here, Nia whispered, keeping her voice low and warm like a secret. Bella jumped slightly, then relaxed instantly when she saw Nia. She didn't smile. Bella rarely smiled, but her shoulders dropped about 2 inches. Nia sat on the edge of the window seat, ignoring the rule about staff sitting on the furniture. Mrs. Weaver is looking for you. They want to get you into that pink dress. The scratchy one with the lace. Bella wrinkled her nose, a flash of genuine childish annoyance breaking through her stoic mask. She reached out and tugged on Nia's sleeve. I know, baby. I know, Nia soothed, automatically reaching out to fix a messy curl falling over the girl's forehead. But look, I'll make you a deal. You go let them dress you, and I'll keep a stash of the chocolate-covered strawberries in the pantry for you. The ones with the gold dust. Just for us. Bella's eyes widened. She held up 2 fingers. 2 strawberries. Nia laughed softly. You drive a hard bargain, Moretti. Fine. 2. Now come on. As Bella slid off the window seat, the heavy oak doors of the library creaked open. The temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. Vincent Moretti stood in the doorway. He was a tall man, built with the lean, predatory grace of a wolf. He wore a tuxedo that fit him so perfectly it looked like a second skin, tailored to hide the gun everyone knew he carried in a shoulder holster. His face was handsome in a severe, jagged way, with eyes the color of slate and a jawline that looked like it could cut glass. Nia stood up immediately, smoothing her apron, her heart hammering a frantic rhythm against her ribs. It wasn't just that he was the boss. It was the way he occupied space. He sucked the air out of the room. Vincent didn't look at Nia. His gaze went straight to his daughter. Isabella, he said. His voice was a deep baritone, not loud, but it carried a weight that made the floorboards vibrate. It is time. Bella stiffened. She moved closer to Nia, her small hand gripping the fabric of Nia's skirt. It was a dangerous breach of protocol, the help touching the family, but Nia didn't pull away. She felt the child trembling. Vincent's eyes shifted then, sliding from his daughter to Nia's hand, then up to Nia's face. His expression was unreadable. Most men looked at Nia and saw a uniform, a service provided, a non-person. Vincent looked at her, and she felt like she was being scanned by thermal optics. She was just nervous about the crowd, Mr. Moretti, Nia said, her voice steady despite the fear coiling in her stomach. Grandma Pearl raised fighters, not victims. I was escorting her to the nursery to get ready. Vincent stared at her for a second too long. Then he gave a single, curt nod. See that you do. He stepped aside, allowing them to pass. As they walked by, the scent of him hit Nia, expensive scotch, cedarwood, and something metallic, like the smell of rain on hot pavement. When they were down the hall and around the corner, Bella let out a long, shaky breath. Nia gave her hand a reassuring squeeze. It's okay, Nia whispered, though she wasn't sure if she was comforting the child or herself. He's just intense. He loves you, you know. Bella looked up at Nia, her expression skeptical. She didn't make a sound, but her eyes said everything. He scares me. By 8 o'clock, the gala was in full swing. The ballroom was a sea of diamonds and tuxedos. A 20-piece orchestra played Mozart while waiters navigated the floor with trays of champagne. The guest list was a who's who of New Jersey corruption. Politicians who sold zoning permits for kickbacks, judges who owned private prisons, and construction magnates who poured concrete over secrets. Nia moved through the crowd with practiced invisibility. She collected empty glasses, replaced napkins, and dodged wandering hands. This was the part of the job she hated most, being surrounded by people who had everything and valued nothing. She watched a senator's wife complain that the caviar was too salty, while wearing a necklace that could have paid for Nia's entire neighborhood's rent for a year. She heard a developer laughing about evicting a grandmother to build a parking lot. It made her blood boil, but she kept her face blank. Eyes on the prize, she told herself. Andre's tuition. Andre's future. Champagne, sweetheart. A voice slurred near her ear. Nia suppressed a shudder and turned. A heavy-set man with a face like a boiled ham was holding out an empty glass. He wasn't looking at her face. He was staring directly at her chest. I'll fetch a fresh glass for you, sir, Nia said, stepping back deftly. Don't run off, the man grunted, reaching for her arm. Nia sidestepped him smoothly, a move she'd perfected working in dive bars before she landed the Moretti gig. I'll be right back, sir. She vanished into the crowd before he could protest. She retreated to the side of the room, near a large marble pillar, taking a moment to reset. She scanned the room for Bella. The girl was supposed to make an appearance, wave to the donors, and then be allowed to retreat. It was all theater. Vincent needed to look like a family man to soften his image for the federal investigators constantly sniffing around his operations. That's when the atmosphere in the room shifted. A loud, braying laugh cut through the polite chatter. Gregory Fallon had arrived. Nia knew him by reputation, and none of it was good. The son of an oil tycoon, Greg Fallon was 45 going on 12. He was the kind of man who believed the world existed solely for his amusement. He had a history of crashing cars and paying off the victims, of trashing hotel rooms, and of treating staff like indentured servants. If you can't stand people like Fallon, people who think their wallet gives them the right to treat others like garbage, then you know exactly why Nia's grip tightened on her serving tray. Trolls and bullies usually side with money, but real people side with respect. If you believe everyone deserves dignity, no matter their paycheck, make sure you're paying attention, because men like Fallon never think they'll face consequences. He was already drunk. He stumbled through the arched doorway, a glass of dark liquor in his hand, his tuxedo tie undone. He bumped into a waiter, sending a tray of hors d'oeuvres crashing to the floor. "Watch it, idiot!" Fallon shouted at the waiter, who was currently on his knees picking up spanakopita. The room went quiet for a beat, then resumed its hum. This was the Moretti way. Ignore the mess until it's cleaned up. Vincent Moretti was at the far end of the room, speaking in hushed tones with a federal judge. Nia saw Vincent's eyes flicker toward Fallon. It was a micro-expression of pure annoyance, like a shark noticing a parasite. But Vincent didn't move. Fallon was a major donor to the foundation. His money was washed clean just like everyone else's. Nia watched as Fallon zigzagged through the room. He grabbed a woman by the waist who clearly didn't want to be grabbed, laughed too loudly at his own jokes, and spilled his drink on the expensive rug. And then Nia saw her. Bella had just entered the room through the side service door, accompanied by her nanny. But the nanny, a young woman more interested in flirting with the security guard than watching her charge, had turned her back for a second. Bella stood frozen near the chocolate fountain, looking overwhelmed by the noise and the towering adults. She looked like a porcelain doll dropped in a mosh pit. She was clutching her pink dress, her eyes darting around for an exit. She locked eyes with Nia across the room. Nia offered her a small, encouraging nod, silently telling her, "It's okay, I'm here." But Fallon saw her too. "Well, well," Fallon bellowed, his voice slurring heavily. "If it isn't the little princess." He veered toward Bella, his movements sloppy and unpredictable. He was a large man, heavy and uncoordinated, a swaying tower of expensive fabric and bad intentions. Bella's eyes went wide. She took a step back, hitting the table behind her. Fallon loomed over her, grinning with wet teeth. "You're too quiet, kid. Always so creepy quiet. Come hug Uncle Greg. Let's get a picture for the press, huh?" He reached out with a sweaty hand. Bella flinched violently, shrinking into herself. She opened her mouth, but no sound came out. The terror on her face was absolute. Nia didn't wait. She didn't check with her supervisor. She didn't think about Andre's tuition or the unspoken rule that the help never causes a scene. She just saw a predator and a child. Nia dropped her tray. The clatter of silver on marble was lost in the ambient noise, but to Nia, it was the starting gun. She moved with the speed of a woman who had navigated dangerous streets her whole life. She cut through the crowd, dodging a tuxedo and leaping over the train of a gown. Fallon's hand was inches from Bella's shoulder. The smell of stale bourbon wafted off him in waves. "Come here, you mute little freak," Fallon muttered, his fingers closing in. Nia didn't slow down. She planted her feet and threw her body between the drunk millionaire and the Mafia princess. "Back off." Nia's voice rang out, clear and authoritative, cutting through the string quartet's melody like a razor blade. She didn't just speak, she shoved. She placed both hands on Fallon's chest and pushed with every ounce of strength Grandma Pearl had bred into her spine. Fallon, off balance and drunk, didn't stand a chance. He stumbled backward, his arms pinwheeling. His heel caught the edge of a heavy velvet chair, and he went down hard, crashing into a table filled with champagne flutes. Crash. Glass shattered. Liquid sprayed. Fallon landed on his back with a thud that shook the floor. The music stopped instantly. The chatter died. Nia stood panting, her arms spread wide, shielding Bella behind her. Her heart was hammering against her ribs like a trapped bird, but her eyes were blazing. For 3 seconds, the only sound in the massive ballroom was the drip 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 of spilled champagne hitting the marble floor. Then Fallon sat up, his face purple with rage. He wiped champagne from his eyes and pointed a shaking finger at Nia. "You," he sputtered, struggling to his feet. "You filthy little. Do you know who I am?" Nia didn't flinch. She felt Bella's small hands clutching the back of her apron, and that grip gave her all the courage she needed. "I don't care who you are," Nia said, her voice steady enough to reach the back of the room. "You don't touch the child." The silence that followed was heavy, suffocating. Every eye in the room turned toward the one man who hadn't moved yet. Vincent Moretti turned slowly from his conversation with the judge. His face was a mask of stone. He looked at Fallon, who was wet and screaming. He looked at the shattered glass. And then he looked at Nia. The silence in the ballroom wasn't empty. It was heavy, suffocating, and sharp as a guillotine blade. It was the kind of silence that usually ends with a body on the floor. Gregory Fallon scrambled to his feet, his face a mottled map of red rage and embarrassment. His $3,000 tuxedo was dripping with champagne, a slice of lemon clinging pathetically to his lapel. He looked ridiculous, but in his world, ridiculous men with money were still dangerous. "Security!" Fallon shrieked, his voice cracking. He pointed a shaking finger at Nia. "Get this help out of here. She assaulted me. Did you see that? She pushed me." Nia didn't move. She kept her arms spread, creating a human barrier between the hulking man and the trembling child behind her. Her heart was beating so hard she could feel it in her throat, a frantic drum solo of adrenaline, but her face remained a mask of cold defiance. Grandma Pearl had taught her that fear was a reaction, but courage was a decision. "Decide," she told herself. "Decide to stand." "He was grabbing her," Nia said. Her voice wasn't loud, but it was steady, cutting through Fallon's hysterics. "He was drunk and he was scaring the child." "She's lying." Fallon roared, looking around the room for support. He looked at the senator, then the judge, expecting the solidarity of the elite. "I was just saying hello." "She's unhinged." "Vincent. Where is Vincent?" The crowd parted. It didn't happen because Fallon called for him. It happened because the temperature in a room seemed to drop another 10 degrees. The guests, men who ran corporations and women who ran charities, stepped back instinctively, clearing a wide path down the center of the ballroom. Vincent Moretti was walking. He didn't rush. He didn't run. He moved with the terrifying, fluid grace of a panther stalking a wounded deer. His hands were loose at his sides, his expression completely void of emotion. It was the face of a man who had buried problems in the foundation of casinos. Nia felt Bella's grip on her skirt tighten. "It's okay," Nia whispered, though she was terrified that she had just signed her own termination papers. Or worse. In this world, people disappeared for less than spilling a donor's drink. Fallon, seeing Vincent approach, straightened his tie, trying to regain some semblance of dignity. He laughed, a nervous, wet sound. "Vincent. Thank God," Fallon stammered. This woman is crazy. I walk over to say hello to your lovely daughter, just being friendly, you know me, and she tackles me. Look at my suit. It's ruined. I want her fired. I want her arrested for assault." Fallon puffed his chest out, confident in the hierarchy of the world. In his mind, he was a guest, a peer, a man of wealth. Nia was just labor. Disposable. Replaceable. If you have ever stood in a room and watched someone with power bully someone without it, you know the specific kind of nausea that rises in your gut. It's the sickness of injustice. If you believe that money doesn't give anyone the right to treat people like garbage, hit that subscribe button right now. Only the trolls, the bullies, and the Fallons of the world would refuse to stand up for decency. If you're not one of them, comment respect below to show whose side you're on. Vincent stopped 3 feet from them. He stood in the center of the chaos, the chandelier light reflecting off his dark hair. He looked at the shattered glass on the floor. He looked at the stain on Fallon's suit. Then he looked at Nia. Nia braced herself. She lifted her chin, preparing for the yelling, the firing, and the humiliation. She squeezed Bella's hand behind her back, a silent promise that she wouldn't move until the girl was safe. "Mr. Moretti," Nia started, her voice tight. "I." Vincent held up a hand. 1 finger. Silence fell again. He turned his head slowly toward Fallon. "You said she pushed you?" "Yes," Fallon exclaimed, relieved. "Threw me into the table. It's insane. You can't have staff like this, Vincent. It's a liability." "And why?" Vincent asked, his voice dangerously soft. "Did she push you?" Fallon blinked. "I told you. I was just saying hello to the kid. She overreacted. Probably wanted to make a scene and get some money out of you. You know how these people are." A ripple of shock went through the staff standing at the perimeter. These people. The racism was thinly veiled, hanging in the air like cigar smoke. Vincent stared at Fallon for a long beat. Then, he took a step forward. He was now invading Fallon's personal space, towering over him. "Gregory," Vincent said, "my daughter is mute. She has severe anxiety. She does not like strangers. Everyone in this room knows that." Fallon swallowed hard. I just thought." "You thought you could touch her," Vincent said. "It wasn't a question." "I didn't. I mean, not like that." Fallon was sweating now. The alcohol was evaporating from his system, replaced by pure, cold fear. Vincent turned away from him. He turned his back on the millionaire donor and faced the maid. The entire room held its breath. This was it. The moment the hammer dropped. Vincent looked Nia in the eye. His gaze dropped to her hands, which were still trembling slightly, then moved to where she was shielding Bella. "Are you hurt?" Vincent asked. Nia blinked, stunned. "Sir, did you get cut by the glass?" he asked, his voice surprisingly gentle. "Or did he hurt you when you intervened?" The room gasped. It was a collective intake of breath that sounded like the room itself was shocked. Vincent Moretti wasn't asking about the spilled champagne. He wasn't asking about the ruined gala. He was asking the maid if she was okay. "No, sir," Nia managed to say. "I'm fine. He was scaring her. I had to stop him." Vincent nodded slowly. He looked down at his daughter, who was peeking out from behind Nia's leg. "Isabella?" Vincent asked softly. Bella didn't speak. She never spoke. But she stepped out from behind Nia, reached up and took Nia's hand again, holding it tight with both of hers. She looked at her father, then pointed at Fallon and shook her head vigorously. Then she buried her face in Nia's apron. That gesture sealed Fallon's fate louder than a judge's gavel. Vincent turned back to Fallon. The mask was gone. In its place was a look of such concentrated, icy violence that Fallon actually took a step back. "You're lucky," Vincent said, his voice low and rough. Lucky." Fallon stammered. "You're lucky she stopped you," Vincent said. "Because if you had actually put your hands on my daughter, and I had been the one to stop you, the police wouldn't be finding a body to arrest." Fallon turned pale, his mouth opening and closing like a fish on a dock. Vincent reached over to the nearest microphone stand, the one set up for the speeches. He adjusted it, the screech of feedback making everyone wince. "Ladies and gentlemen," Vincent said, his voice booming through the speakers, calm and authoritative. "I apologize for the interruption. However, it seems we have a guest who has forgotten the rules of hospitality and decency." He looked directly at Fallon. "Mr. Fallon, you are no longer welcome in my home. You are no longer welcome at my events. And if I hear that you have so much as breathed in the direction of my staff or my family again, our next conversation will not be in a ballroom. Do you understand?" Fallon looked around the room. He saw the faces of the elite, people he thought were his friends, turning away. They were studying the ceiling, their shoes, and their drinks. No one was going to save him. He was social kryptonite. "This is ridiculous," Fallon muttered, trying to salvage his ego. "I'm leaving anyway. This party is a bore." "Security," Vincent barked. Two men in black suits materialized from the shadows. They didn't look like the polite security guards at the mall. They looked like men who broke things for a living. "Escort Mr. Fallon to his vehicle," Vincent ordered. "Ensure he does not drive himself. We wouldn't want him to hurt anyone else tonight." Fallon was guided, firmly, toward the exit. As he passed, he glared at Nia, muttering something under his breath. Nia stared right back, her chin high. When the doors closed behind him, the silence lingered. Vincent turned back to the room. "Please enjoy the evening. The orchestra, if you will." The conductor, terrified, immediately tapped his baton, and the music started up a little too fast. The guests began to whisper, the hum of gossip filling the air immediately. Vincent ignored them all. He turned back to Nia. He stepped closer, closing the distance between them until they were in a private bubble of silence amidst the noise. "You saved her," Vincent said. His eyes were searching hers, looking for something. "I just did what needed doing," Nia said, feeling the adrenaline crash beginning to hit her. Her knees felt weak. "Most people wouldn't have," Vincent said. "Most people in this room would have let him grab her rather than risk a scene. Rather than risk their standing." He looked down at Bella, who was still clinging to Nia. For the first time, Nia saw a crack in Vincent's armor. He looked exhausted and relieved. "She trusts you," Vincent observed. "She's never taken to anyone like this. Not the nannies. Not the tutors. She's a good kid," Nia said softly. "She just needs to know she's safe." Vincent looked at Nia, really looked at her. He saw the scuff on her sensible work shoes, the fraying hem of her uniform, and the strength in her shoulders. "Miss Thompson, isn't it?" Vincent asked. "Yes, sir. Nia Thompson." "Nia," Vincent repeated. The name sounded different coming from him. Not like an order, but like an acknowledgement. "I don't want you serving drinks anymore." Nia's stomach dropped. "Sir, please. I need this job. My brother." "I'm not firing you," Vincent interrupted, a flicker of amusement crossing his lips. "I'm promoting you." Nia blinked. "Promoting me? The current nanny is incompetent. I saw her flirting with the valet while my daughter was being accosted," Vincent said coldly. "She's gone. I want you to take over. Full-time. You watch Bella. You take care of her. You answer only to me." I don't have a degree in child development, Mr. Moretti," Nia said, stunned. "I don't care about degrees," Vincent said. "I care that you stood between a drunk carrying 200 pounds of entitlement and my little girl. I care that she's holding your hand and not shaking." He paused, his gaze intense. "Triple your current salary. Full benefits for you and your immediate family. Live-in position if you want it, or a car service to bring you here. Do we have a deal?" Nia felt the room spin slightly. Triple the salary? That wasn't just tuition. That was a new apartment. That was paying off Grandma Pearl's medical bills. That was a life raft in an ocean she'd been treading water in for years. She looked down at Bella. The girl looked up, her big dark eyes filled with hope. She gave Nia's hand a tiny squeeze. Nia looked back at Vincent. "I have conditions." Vincent raised an eyebrow. No one gave Vincent Moretti conditions. "Oh. I need every other weekend off to check on my grandmother," Nia said firmly. "And I don't wear a uniform when I'm watching her. It makes her feel like a job. She needs a friend, not a staff member." Vincent stared at her for a long second. Then the corner of his mouth twitched upward. An almost smile. "Done," he said. "Then we have a deal," Nia said. Vincent nodded. "Take the rest of the night off. Take Bella to the kitchen, and get her whatever she wants. I'll handle the rest of these vultures." "Thank you, Mr. Moretti." "Vincent," he corrected. "If you're protecting my daughter, you call me Vincent." Nia hesitated, then nodded. "Vincent." She turned, guiding Bella away from the crowd toward the service doors. As they walked away, she could feel his eyes on her back. Heavy, watchful, and for the first time in a long time, not entirely cold. As the heavy kitchen doors swung shut behind them, cutting off the noise of the gala, Bella let out a long breath. She looked up at Nia and grinned, a real wide grin that showed a missing baby tooth. "2 strawberries," Bella whispered. Nia froze. She looked down at the girl. It was the first time she had heard Bella speak a word that wasn't a whisper in a library. Nia laughed, a sound of pure relief. You got it, kid. 2 strawberries. And maybe 1 for me. But as Nia walked toward the pantry, her mind wasn't on the chocolate. It was on the lookout in Vincent Moretti's eyes. She had stepped into the lion's den and pulled a thorn from its paw. She just hoped she hadn't just promised her life to the beast. Because everyone in Newark knew. When Vincent Moretti owed you a favor, he owned you. And when he looked at you like you were the only water in a desert, that was a dangerous place to be. The kitchen was a sanctuary of stainless steel and humming refrigerators, a stark contrast to the velvet-draped tension of the ballroom. Nia hoisted Bella onto the butcher block island, her legs dangling like pendulums. The child looked small against the industrial backdrop, a splash of pale pink lace in a room designed for efficiency. Nia moved to the walk-in pantry, her hands finally shaking now that the adrenaline was receding. She grabbed the container of strawberries, huge ruby-red things dipped in dark chocolate and dusted with edible gold leaf. It was ridiculous, really. One of these berries probably costs more than a gallon of milk at the bodega down the street from her apartment. She brought the container back and popped the lid. The smell of rich cocoa filled the air. A deal is a deal, Nia said, holding one out. Bella took it with solemn reverence. She took a small bite, chocolate smudging her upper lip, and for a moment, she wasn't the Mafia princess or the mute witness to her mother's death. She was just a kid eating sugar. He was scary, Bella whispered. It was barely a breath, but in the quiet kitchen, it sounded like a shout. Nia leaned against the counter, crossing her arms. She didn't coddle the girl with lies. Grandma Pearl didn't raise liars. Yeah, he was a bully. And bullies are scary until you realize they're just loud noises wrapped in cheap suits. Bella giggled. It was a rusty sound, like a gate that hadn't been opened in years. Daddy made him leave. Your daddy did make him leave, Nia agreed. She watched the girl carefully. Your dad? He can be scary too, huh? Bella stopped chewing. She looked down at the strawberry, her small thumb tracing the gold dust. Only to bad people. Nia felt a chill crawl up her spine. Only to bad people. It was a simplified morality for a complex world, but it told Nia everything she needed to know about how Bella viewed Vincent. To the world, he was a monster. To her, he was the wall that kept the monsters out. The heavy swing doors pushed open. Nia straightened instantly, her staff mask sliding back into place. It wasn't Vincent. It was Mrs. Weaver, the head housekeeper. Mrs. Weaver was a woman who looked like she had been starched along with the linens. She was 60, severe, and wore her position in the Moretti household like a general's rank. She had tolerated Nia because Nia worked hard, but tolerance was a fragile thing. Mr. Moretti has requested that Miss Isabella be taken up to bed, Mrs. Weaver said, her voice clipped. She didn't look at Bella, she looked at Nia with eyes like flint. And he wants to see you in his study. Immediately. I'm taking her up, Nia said, reaching for a napkin to wipe Bella's face. I will take her, Mrs. Weaver interjected, stepping forward. You are summoned. Nia paused. She saw the tightness in Weaver's jaw. It was the look of someone who realized the hierarchy had just shifted, and they weren't the ones climbing the ladder. If you've ever worked a job where you did everything right, hustled harder than anyone else, and still had a manager or coworker look at you with pure venom just because you started to shine, then you know this look. It's the face of gatekeeping. It's the face of people who think success is a pie, and if you get a slice, there's less for them. If you can't stand toxic jealousy in the workplace, hit that subscribe button. Don't let the Weavers of the world win. Comment level up if you believe hard work should be rewarded, not resented. It's okay, Nia, Bella said, sliding off the counter. She looked at Mrs. Weaver, then back at Nia. I'll go. Don't forget. You promised. I know, Nia said softly. I'll see you in the morning. She watched Mrs. Weaver escort the child out, the housekeeper's grip on Bella's hand a little too firm, a little too possessive. Nia made a mental note. Watch her. Nia smoothed her apron, took a deep breath, and headed for the study. The Moretti study was legendary among the staff. It was where the real business happened. Maids were only allowed in to clean it at 6 a.m., under supervision. To be invited in at night was unheard of. The door was mahogany, thick enough to stop a bullet. Nia knocked. "Enter." She pushed the door open. The room was dimly lit, smelling of leather, old paper, and gun oil. Vincent was sitting behind a desk that looked like it had been carved from a single tree. He wasn't wearing his tuxedo jacket anymore. His sleeves were rolled up, revealing forearms corded with muscle and ink. He was pouring 2 glasses of amber liquid. "Close the door," he said without looking up. Nia obeyed. The latch clicked with a finality that made her heart stutter. "Sit." He gestured to one of the leather chairs opposite the desk. Nia sat. She sat on the edge, her back straight, hands folded in her lap. Vincent slid one of the glasses across the desk toward her. "Bourbon. Rare. It bites, but it settles the nerves." "I don't drink on the job, sir." Vincent leaned back, the leather creaking. He took a sip of his own drink, his gray eyes locking onto hers. "You're not on the job right now, Nia. We are negotiating." "I thought we had a deal," Nia said, ignoring the drink. "We have an outline," Vincent corrected. "Now we need the details." He picked up a file folder and slid it toward her. "This is a standard employment contract, modified for your new role. It includes the salary increase we discussed, the benefits, and the housing stipend if you choose to maintain your own residence, which I assume you will." Nia opened the folder. Her eyes scanned the numbers. She had to blink twice. The monthly figure was more than she used to make in 6 months of double shifts. It was life-changing money. It was to get Andre out of debt, buy Grandma a new furnace, and maybe even buy a house with the money. "Why?" she asked, looking up at him. Vincent paused. "Why what? Why me? Why this much?" Nia gestured to the paper. "I'm a maid from Newark, Mr. Moretti. You could hire a bodyguard with a specialized degree for this." Vincent set his glass down. The playful glint vanished from his eyes, replaced by that cold, heavy intensity. "I've hired bodyguards," he said quietly. "They treat her like a package. Like cargo. And I've hired nannies. They treat her like a broken doll. They talk down to her. They pity her." He leaned forward, his elbows on the desk. "Tonight, when that drunk prick came at her, you didn't look at her like cargo. And you didn't look at her with pity. You looked at her like she was yours to protect. You got angry." He tapped the desk with a finger. "I can buy muscle, Nia. I have an army of muscle. What I can't buy is loyalty. What I can't buy is the instinct you showed tonight. You have fire in you. Grandma Pearl raised you well." Nia stiffened. "You investigated me." "I investigate everyone who enters this house," Vincent said unapologetically. "I know about your brother Andre and his engineering degree. I know about your grandmother's arthritis. I know you walk 3 blocks out of your way to avoid the corner boys on 4th Street because you don't want trouble, but you carry a box cutter in your pocket just in case trouble finds you." Nia felt a flash of anger, hot and sharp. "So you've been stalking me." "I've been vetting you," Vincent corrected. "And tonight, you passed the final test." He stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the dark grounds. "But there is something you need to understand before you sign that paper," he said, his back to her. "This money, it's not just for childcare. It's hazard pay." Nia looked at his broad back. "I figured that." Vincent turned around. "No, you didn't. Not really." He walked over to a small cabinet on the side wall, unlocked it, and pulled out a black pistol. He placed it on the desk, right next to the contract. Nia didn't flinch, but her pupils contracted. "My world is not safe," Vincent said. "Fallon was a nuisance. But some men would hurt Bella to get to me. Men who wouldn't stop because a maid pushed them. If you take this job, you are stepping into the line of fire. You become a target because you are close to the thing I value most." He gestured to the gun. "If you sign that paper, you will be trained. You will learn how to drive defensively. You will learn how to shoot. And you will learn that the police are not the first people you call when things go wrong. I am." The silence in the room was thick. Nia looked at the contract, the promise of a better life for her family. Then she looked at the gun, the promise of violence. She thought of Andre, studying late at night under a flickering lamp. She thought of Grandma Pearl, whose hands were so swollen she could barely button her shirt. And she thought of Bella, alone in that window seat, whispering about strawberries. "Life is going to try to kneecap you every week," Grandma had said. "Stand up, anyway." Nia reached out. She didn't take the gun. She took the pen. She signed the contract with a flourish, the sound of the pen scratching against the paper loud in the quiet room. "I don't like guns," Nia said, capping the pen. "But I learn fast." Vincent watched her, a slow, dark satisfaction spreading across his face. It wasn't a smile. It was something more primal. It was the look of a king who had just found his knight. "Good," he said. "Welcome to the family, Nia." The transition was abrupt. By next Monday, Nia wasn't wearing the black and white uniform anymore. She wore a tailored pantsuit, navy blue, professional but mobile. It was a barrier, a signal to the rest of the staff that she was no longer one of them. The resentment was palpable. When Nia entered the kitchen to get Bella's breakfast, conversation died. Mrs. Weaver slammed cupboard doors with unnecessary force. The other maids wouldn't meet her eyes. Nia ignored it. She had a job to do. But the real challenge wasn't the staff. It was the training. Vincent wasn't joking. Every morning, while Bella was with her tutors, Nia was in the back lot with Moretti's head of security, a man named Rocco who looked like a vending machine with a goatee. He taught her how to check a car for explosives. He taught her how to break a man's grip on her wrist. He taught her to spot a tail in traffic. And in the evenings, Vincent took over. It was a Thursday, 2 weeks into her new role. The house was quiet. Nia was in the library, organizing Bella's books, when Vincent walked in. He looked tired. There were dark circles under his eyes, and he smelled of smoke and ozone. "How is she?" he asked, loosening his tie. "She's good," Nia said. "She read 3 pages aloud today. To me. Not a whisper. Real voice." Vincent stopped. He looked at Nia, and the exhaustion in his face momentarily lifted. "She did. She did. She has a lovely voice, Vincent." He let out a breath, leaning his head back against the doorframe. "Thank you. It's my job." "No," he said, opening his eyes to look at her. "The rest is your job. That is a gift." He walked further into the room. The air between them felt charged, static electricity building up before a storm. He stopped a few feet away from her. "I have to go to Chicago for a few days," he said. "Union dispute. It's going to be messy." "Okay," Nia said. "We'll be fine here. Rocco will stay with you. The perimeter is doubled." He hesitated, which was rare for him. "Nia, be careful. Things are unstable right now. Fallon has been running his mouth. He's embarrassed, and embarrassment makes weak men do stupid things." "I can handle Fallon," Nia said. "It's not Fallon I'm worried about," Vincent said darkly. "It's who Fallon talks to." He reached out, his hand hovering near her arm for a split second before he pulled it back. It was a moment of restraint that spoke louder than a touch. "Keep her safe," he said. "With my life," Nia answered. And for the first time she realized she meant it literally. Vincent left the next morning. The house felt bigger without him, emptier. 2 days later, the package arrived. It wasn't delivered by courier. It was found on the front step by the morning gardener. A simple brown box, addressed to The Help. Rocco intercepted it before Nia could touch it. He scanned it, shook it, then carefully opened it on the kitchen table while Nia stood back, her heart hammering. Inside was not a bomb. It was a doll. A cheap, plastic doll with blonde curls. The doll's head had been ripped off, and stuffed into the doll's hollow chest was a note written in jagged red marker. "She's not your daughter. You're just the shield. Shields break." Nia stared at the doll. She felt a coldness settle over her, a calm, icy layer of rage. "Is this from Fallon?" she asked Rocco. Rocco's face was grim. "Fallon doesn't have the guts for this. This is a message." "From whom?" Someone who knows Vincent is out of town, Rocco said, his hand instinctively going to his hip. Someone testing the fence. Nia looked at the decapitated doll. She didn't scream. She didn't cry. She reached out and picked up the note. "Burn it," she said. Rocco looked at her, surprised. "We need to show Vincent." "We will tell Vincent," Nia said, her voice hard. "But we aren't going to let Bella see this. Burn it. Then double the guard at the gate." She turned and walked toward the stairs. "Where are you going?" Rocco asked. "To wake up Bella," Nia said without looking back. "And then I'm going to teach her how to dial 911 on a burner phone. Today is a school day, Rocco. But the lesson has changed." As she climbed the marble stairs, Nia realized that the contract she signed wasn't just for employment. It was an enlistment paper. The war had started, and the enemy knew her name. The rain started 3 hours after the package arrived, a relentless hammering downpour that turned the sprawling Moretti estate into an island of gray mist and mud. The house, usually a fortress of silence, now creaked and groaned under the weight of the storm. Nia didn't sleep. She sat in the oversized armchair in the corner of Bella's bedroom, the glow of the streetlights outside casting long skeletal shadows across the floor. The box cutter was in her pocket. The burner phone Rocco had given her was in her lap. She wasn't just watching a sleeping child, she was guarding a perimeter. Vincent had been gone for 3 days. In those 3 days, the atmosphere in the house had curdled. The staff moved with hushed urgency, sensing the shift in the air. Mrs. Weaver had stopped snapping orders and started looking over her shoulder. Security was tight. Men with earpieces stood at every entrance, but Nia knew that walls didn't matter if the enemy was already inside. That note, "Shields break," played on a loop in her mind. Around 2 a.m., a noise cut through the sound of the rain. It wasn't a crash or a bang. It was the soft, distinctive beep of the security keypad in the service hallway downstairs. The sound of a code being entered. Nia froze. The house was on lockdown. No one should be entering or leaving. Rocco and his team were patrolling the outside, but the inside was supposed to be sealed. She stood up silently, moving to the door. She cracked it open. The hallway was empty. She looked back at Bella. The girl was curled up under her duvet, breathing rhythmically. Nia made a choice. She locked Bella's bedroom door from the outside, a precaution that twisted her gut but was necessary, and slipped the key into her pocket. She moved down the grand staircase, her bare feet making no sound on the marble. She was a ghost in her own home. She reached the landing that overlooked the service entrance near the kitchen. It was dark, but a flash of lightning illuminated the scene below. A figure was standing by the side door. A man. He wasn't wearing the black suit of Moretti's security. He was wearing the gray uniform of the catering staff, someone from the day shift who shouldn't be here. He was punching a code into the alarm panel. Not to arm it. To bypass it. The little green light on the panel turned red. Disarmed. He reached for the handle, preparing to open the door to whoever or whatever was waiting in the rain. Nia didn't think. She didn't call Rocco. There was no time. If that door opened, the perimeter was breached. She descended the stairs, not with the grace of a lady, but with the speed of a striking cobra. She vaulted the banister at the bottom, landing with a heavy thud that finally alerted the intruder. The man spun around, eyes wide. "Who the—" Nia didn't let him finish. She lowered her shoulder and rammed him, driving him away from the door and into the wall. He was bigger than her and stronger, but he was surprised, and he was doing something shameful. Betrayal makes a man hesitant. Protecting a child makes a woman lethal. If you can't stand backstabbers, people who would sell out a child's safety for a quick payout, then you know exactly what kind of rage was fueling Nia right now. There is nothing lower than a traitor. If you believe loyalty is everything and rats deserve to get caught, hit that subscribe button. Leave a comment saying "No mercy" if you think Nia should take him down. The man grunted, shoving Nia back. She skidded on the floor but kept her footing. "You're supposed to be asleep," the man hissed, pulling a knife from his belt. It was a serrated kitchen knife. "And you're supposed to be gone," Nia snapped. He lunged. Nia dodged left, remembering Rocco's training. Inside the guard. Control the wrist. She caught his wrist with both hands, twisting her body and using his own momentum against him. It was messy. She wasn't a black belt, she was a brawler, but it worked. She slammed his arm against the granite countertop. He yelled, dropping the knife. But he didn't stop. He swung a heavy fist, catching Nia on the cheekbone. Pain exploded in her head. White light flashed behind her eyes. She stumbled back, tasting blood. The man scrambled for the door handle again. "They just want the girl," he shouted, panicked. "They just want the girl and I get 50 grand. Over my dead body," Nia spat. She grabbed a heavy cast-iron skillet from the hanging rack, a weapon Grandma Pearl would have approved of, and swung it with everything she had. Clang! The iron connected with the man's shoulder, sending him crumbling to his knees. Before he could rise, Nia kicked the door shut and engaged the deadbolt. "Rocco!" she screamed, her voice echoing through the house. "Kitchen! Breach!" The man groaned, trying to crawl toward the knife. Nia stepped on his hand, applying pressure until he whimpered. She stood over him, chest heaving, blood trickling down her chin, the skillet raised high. "Stay down," she commanded. "Or I swear to God, the next one is for your head." The kitchen doors burst open. Rocco and 3 guards poured in, guns drawn. They saw the scene, the traitor on the floor, whimpering. The side door was locked. And Nia Thompson, battered but standing tall, holding a frying pan like it was Excalibur. Rocco lowered his gun slightly, staring at her. "Nia." "He disabled the alarm," Nia said, her voice shaking now that the threat was contained. "He was letting someone in." Rocco's face went dark. He motioned to his men. "Grab him. And sweep the perimeter outside." If he opened the lock, someone was waiting. 2 guards hauled the traitor to his feet. He was sobbing now, babbling about gambling debts and a man named Fallon. Rocco looked at Nia's swelling cheek. "You need ice." "I need to check on Bella," Nia said, dropping the skillet. But before she could move, the front door of the mansion, the main entrance, slammed open. Wind and rain swirled into the foyer. Vincent Moretti walked in. He was soaked. His trench coat was dripping, his hair plastered to his forehead. He had a duffel bag in one hand and a look of pure, unadulterated panic in his eyes. He had clearly driven through the storm to get back. He saw the commotion in the hallway. He saw the guards dragging the traitor away. He saw Rocco. And then he saw Nia. He dropped the bag. He crossed the distance between them in 3 long strides. He didn't look at Rocco. He didn't ask for a report. He stopped inches from Nia, his hands hovering as if he wanted to touch her face but was afraid he might break her. "Nia," he breathed. His voice was rough, stripped of all its usual cool command. "I'm okay," she said quickly, though she felt her knees starting to give way. "I'm okay, Vincent." He didn't get upstairs. "Bella is locked in. She's safe." Vincent looked at the bruise forming on her cheek. His eyes darkened, shifting from gray to black. A muscle in his jaw jumped. "Who did this?" he asked. The question was quiet, but it carried the weight of a death sentence. "The caterer," Rocco reported from behind him. "Paid off." He tried to open the side door. Nia intercepted him. Vincent closed his eyes for a second, exhaling a breath that shook his frame. When he opened them, the violence was gone, replaced by something raw and terrifyingly open. He reached out and gently cupped Nia's face, his thumb grazing the skin just below the bruise. His hand was cold from the rain, but his touch was searing hot. "You should have waited for security," he whispered. "He was opening the door," Nia said, leaning slightly into his touch without meaning to. "I couldn't wait. You could have been killed. But I wasn't." Vincent stared at her, and in that moment, the dynamic shifted irrevocably. He wasn't looking at an employee. He wasn't looking at a subordinate. He was looking at a partner. "Rocco," Vincent said, not taking his eyes off Nia. "Boss, take the trash to the basement. I want to know every name, every number, and every promise that was made to him. I'll be down in an hour." "Understood." Rocco signaled the men, and they dragged the traitor away. The kitchen cleared out, leaving only the sound of the rain and the hum of the refrigerator. Vincent dropped his hand from her face, but he didn't step back. "You're bleeding," he said. "Lip," Nia said. "It's nothing. It's nothing." Vincent took off his wet coat and tossed it onto a stool. "Sit. Please." Nia sat on the edge of the island, the same place she had sat with Bella days ago. Vincent went to the freezer, grabbed a bag of frozen peas, and wrapped them in a tea towel. He walked back and pressed it gently against her cheek. "I came back early because I had a bad feeling," Vincent said softly. "I didn't think I'd be walking into this." "It was Fallon," Nia said, wincing slightly as the cold hit the bruise. "The guy said something about Fallon." Vincent's expression hardened into granite. "Fallon is a loudmouth drunk. He doesn't have the tactical mind for a breach like this. He's being used." "By whom?" "By people who want my territory. They see Fallon's grudge as an opportunity." Vincent pulled the ice away to check her skin, then replaced it. "I'm sorry, Nia. I brought this to your doorstep." "I signed the paper, Vincent," she reminded him. "I knew the deal. You signed up to watch a child, not to fight off assassins with cookware." A small, dry smile touched his lips. "A skillet." Nia let out a short laugh that hurt her face. "It was handy. Grandma Pearl always said cast iron is good for everything." Vincent chuckled, a low, rumbling sound. He looked down at her, and the air in the kitchen grew thick again. He was close enough that she could smell the rain and the expensive leather of his holster. "Thank you," he said. "For Bella. For my home." "She's a good kid," Nia whispered. "And you," Vincent said, his gaze dropping to her lips, "are a dangerous woman, Nia Thompson." For a heartbeat, Nia thought he was going to kiss her. The pull was there, magnetic and undeniable. A dangerous attraction between two people from different worlds who had just survived the same storm. But then the moment broke. A small voice came from the doorway. "Daddy." Vincent spun around. Bella was standing there in her pajamas, holding her teddy bear. She looked sleepy and confused, clutching the key Nia had left in her pocket, which she must have fished out after unlocking herself. "Bella," Vincent said, his voice cracking. He went to his daughter, scooping her up into his arms. He buried his face in her neck, holding her tighter than he ever had. Bella hugged him back, then looked over his shoulder at Nia. She saw the ice pack. She saw the bruise. Bella's eyes widened. She wriggled until Vincent loosened his grip, then reached out toward Nia. "Nia hurt," she whispered. Vincent turned, carrying Bella back to the island. "Nia was very brave, sweetheart. She got a boo-boo protecting the house." Bella reached out and touched Nia's knee. "Kiss it better." Nia smiled, her heart swelling so much it hurt. "I think I just need some rest, baby girl. I'm okay." Vincent looked at Nia over his daughter's head. The look in his eyes was a vow. "Go upstairs," Vincent told Nia. "Take the guest suite in the east wing. It has a lock. Sleep. I will stand guard tonight." "You just drove from Chicago," Nia argued. "And I have enough adrenaline in my veins to power the city of Newark," Vincent said grimly. "Go. I'll handle the mess downstairs." Nia slid off the counter. She was exhausted, her body aching in a dozen places. She walked to the door but paused. "Vincent." "Yeah." "Don't kill him," she said. "The guy downstairs. Don't kill him." Vincent's face was unreadable. "He tried to hurt my family, Nia." "He's a pawn," Nia said. "If you kill him, you lose the trail. And I don't want Bella living in a house with ghosts in the basement." Vincent stared at her. For a long moment, the monster and the father warred behind his eyes. "Go to sleep, Nia," he said finally. He didn't promise. Nia walked out, leaving the King of New Jersey holding his daughter in a kitchen that smelled of rain and violence. She climbed the stairs, knowing that tonight, the dynamic had changed forever. She wasn't just the help anymore. She was the Queen's guard. And the king was starting to realize he might not want to rule alone. The morning sun hit the wet pavement of the Moretti estate, turning the driveway into a mirror. Inside the guest suite, Nia woke up to the throb of her cheekbone and the smell of expensive coffee. She touched her face gingerly. The skin was tender, but the swelling had gone down thanks to the ice. She didn't linger in bed. She showered, dressed in the clean clothes that had been silently left for her. Another crisp suit, this one charcoal gray, and went downstairs. The house was quiet, but the tension from the night before had shifted. It wasn't the frantic panic of a breach. It was the cold, calculated silence of a war room. She found Vincent in the sunroom. He was sitting at a glass table, reading a newspaper, looking indistinguishable from any other wealthy suburban father, except for the fact that his knuckles were bruised and his eyes were hard as flint. Bella was there too, coloring in a book, her tongue poking out of the corner of her mouth in concentration. When she saw Nia, her face lit up. "Nia," Bella chirped. Nia smiled, though it pulled at her split lip. "Morning, bug." Vincent folded the newspaper. He looked at Nia, his gaze lingering on the bruise. "You slept well." "Like the dead," Nia said, pouring herself a coffee from the silver service on the sideboard. "How's our guest?" Vincent took a sip of his espresso. "He's alive. As you requested. He's currently in the custody of a very discreet private hospital, treating a fall down the stairs. But he sang before he left." Nia sat down opposite him. "And it was Fallon," Vincent said. The name came out like a curse. "But Fallon is a coward. He didn't order a hit. He paid the caterer to open the door so a couple of hired thugs could scare us. He wanted to humiliate me. He wanted to prove that my fortress wasn't impenetrable." "He put Bella in danger for an ego trip?" Nia asked, her grip tightening on the china cup. "Men like Fallon don't see people," Vincent said, his voice low. "They see props. He didn't think about what two hired thugs might actually do once they got inside. He just wanted to win. If you can't stand people like Fallon, cowards who treat human lives like pieces in a game just to soothe their own ego, then you're in the right place. There is a special place in hell for people who risk children's safety just to feel powerful. If you believe in real justice, hit that subscribe button. Only the spineless side with the Fallons of the world. The real ones comment justice served below." "So what now?" Nia asked. "Police." Vincent laughed, a dry, humorless sound. "The police would arrest the thugs, slap Fallon on the wrist, and he'd be out on bail by dinner. He has too many friends in the DA's office." Vincent stood up. He walked over to where Bella was coloring and kissed the top of her head. "Rocco," Vincent called out. Rocco stepped in from the hallway, looking fresh despite having been up all night. "Boss, prepare the car. The Phantom. And tell the team to suit up." Vincent turned to Nia. "Get your coat. Where are we going?" Nia asked. "The Newark Country Club," Vincent said, buttoning his jacket. "Fallon is having brunch there with the zoning board. He thinks he's safe surrounded by his peers. He thinks last night was a failure and that I'll keep quiet to avoid looking weak." Vincent walked to the door, then paused and looked back at her. "He's wrong. I'm not going to hide it. I'm going to make sure that by noon, Gregory Fallon is so toxic that even the rats won't eat with him." The Newark Country Club was the kind of place where the grass was cut with scissors, and the air smelled of old money and exclusion. It was a place where deals were made over gin and tonics and where the Moretti name was usually whispered, not announced. But today, Vincent Moretti wasn't whispering. The Rolls-Royce Phantom pulled up to the valet stand. Rocco and two other guards got out of the lead SUV. They didn't open the door for Vincent immediately. They secured the area, their presence aggressive and undeniable. When Vincent stepped out, wearing a suit that cost more than the valet's car, the chatter on the veranda died down. He turned and offered his hand to Nia. She took it. She stepped out, head high, her bruise visible in the sunlight. She wasn't hiding it. It was a badge of honor. They walked up the steps. The maitre d', a sweating man named Charles, rushed forward. "Mr. Moretti. We weren't expecting you. Do you have a reservation?" "I'm not here to eat, Charles," Vincent said, breezing past him. They walked through the mahogany doors and into the main dining room. It was packed. Sunday brunch. the clinking of silverware, the murmur of conversation. And there, at the center table, holding court with 3 city council members, was Gregory Fallon. He looked hungover but smug, laughing loudly at his own joke. The room went silent as Vincent entered. It was the Moretti effect. It was like a wolf walking into a sheep pen. Fallon looked up. His smile faltered. He saw Vincent. Then he saw Nia. Then he saw the bruise on Nia's face. He went pale. Vincent didn't stop until he was standing directly at Fallon's table. The council members looked uncomfortable, shifting in their seats. "Vincent," Fallon stammered, trying to regain his bravado. "I didn't know you were a member." "I own the mortgage on the building, Gregory," Vincent said calmly. "Technically, you're eating in my kitchen." A few nervous titters from the surrounding tables. Vincent placed both hands on the table, leaning in. "Last night," Vincent said, his voice carrying clearly through the silent room, "a man broke into my home. He bypassed the alarm. He had a knife. He was looking for my 7-year-old daughter." Gasps rippled through the room. The council members looked at each other, horrified. "He didn't get to her," Vincent continued, his eyes boring into Fallon's. "Because this woman," he gestured to Nia, "stopped him. She took a blow to the face to protect my child from a man paid to open the door." Fallon was sweating profusely now. That's terrible, Vincent. Crime in the city is getting out of control. We were just discussing." "The man confessed, Gregory," Vincent interrupted softly. Fallon choked on his mimosa. What? "He told us everything. Who paid him? How much? And why?" Vincent straightened up, looking around the room at the elite of New Jersey. "He said he was paid by a man who was embarrassed at a party. A man who wanted to send a message." Vincent looked back at Fallon. "You sent a caterer to do a monster's job, Greg. And you failed." Fallon stood up, his chair scraping loudly against the floor. "This is slander. You can't prove anything. You're a thug, Moretti. I'm a respected businessman." "You are a liability," Vincent corrected. Vincent reached into his jacket pocket. Fallon flinched, thinking it was a gun. The whole room tensed. Vincent pulled out a folded piece of paper. It was a printout of a bank transfer. He dropped it on the table. "The transfer from your holding company to the caterer's personal account. Dated yesterday." Fallon stared at the paper. The council members stared at the paper. "Now," Vincent said, his voice turning into cold iron, "I could have handled this privately. I could have buried you in a hole in the Pine Barrens. But Ms. Thompson asked me not to kill you." He looked at Nia with a reverence that shocked the room more than the violence. "She showed you mercy. I am showing you the door." Vincent turned to the room, addressing the judges, the bankers, and the politicians. "Gregory Fallon hired a man to assault a child in her bed because his ego was bruised. If any of you believe Mr. Fallon deserves further hospitality, or business contracts, or friendship after today." Vincent paused, letting the weight of the threat hang in the air. "Then you are welcome to take responsibility for him personally. But know this, if you stand with him, you stand against me." The silence was absolute. One of the council members, a man who had been laughing with Fallon moments ago, stood up. He picked up his plate and moved to an empty table. Then a banker did the same. Then the maitre d' walked over. "Mr. Fallon," Charles said, his voice trembling but firm, "I'm afraid I must ask you to settle your tab and leave. Your membership has been revoked." Fallon looked around. He was an island. His allies were studying the tablecloths. His power had evaporated the moment his checkbook couldn't cover his cruelty. "You'll regret this," Fallon hissed at Vincent. "I regret nothing," Vincent said. "Get out." Fallon stumbled away, humiliated, broken, and socially executed. He walked past Nia, refusing to meet her eyes. As the doors swung shut behind him, the room remained quiet, watching Vincent. Vincent turned to Nia. He didn't care about the audience anymore. "You okay?" he asked. "I'm okay," Nia said. And she was. She felt lighter. The ghost in the basement was gone. The bully was banished. Vincent offered her his arm again. Come on. Let's go home. Bella wants pancakes. As they walked out of the country club, leaving the stunned elite in their wake, Nia realized something. She hadn't just saved a child. She had saved a family. And in doing so, she had found her own place in it. She wasn't walking behind him anymore. She was walking beside him. The following week at the Moretti estate felt less like a job and more like a ceasefire. The air was lighter. The staff, previously cold and clannish, now gave Nia a wide, respectful berth. Mrs. Weaver even brought Nia a fresh cup of tea without being asked, placing it on the table with a nervous smile that said, "Please don't tell the boss I used to be mean to you." Nia didn't care about the hierarchy. She cared that Bella was laughing. For the first time in years, the mansion had noise. Not the polite clinking of crystal, but the thud of running feet and the sound of cartoons playing in the living room. Nia had instituted a new rule. No silence. Silence was where the ghosts lived. But even in the newfound peace, Nia kept the box cutter in her pocket. She knew that humiliating a man like Gregory Fallon was like kicking a hornet's nest. You might feel good about the kick, but the stinging was inevitable. On Friday afternoon, Vincent found Nia in the library. She was teaching Bella how to play Go Fish. "You're cheating," Nia accused playfully, tapping Bella's nose with a card. "I am not," Bella giggled, clutching her hand of cards to her chest. Vincent leaned against the doorframe, watching them. He had traded his suit jacket for a cashmere sweater, softening his edges, but his eyes were still constantly scanning the windows. "Nia," he said. "It's Friday." Nia looked up. "It is. Your contract says every other weekend off. You're due to visit your grandmother." Nia nodded. "My brother Andre is picking me up at 6. "No, he isn't," Vincent said. He walked into the room, picking up a discarded card from the table. "I canceled him." Nia frowned, her protective instinct flaring. "You did what? You can't just order my family around, Vincent." "I didn't order him. I offered him a scholarship to the summer engineering program at MIT. He was quite happy to take the call," Vincent said calmly. "And since he's busy packing, I'm driving you." Nia stood up. "You. The King of New Jersey is going to drive me to a walk-up in the Ironbound." "I need to inspect the roads," Vincent lied smoothly. "And Bella wants to see where you live." He looked down at his daughter. "Right, Isabella?" Bella nodded vigorously. "I want to see Grandma Pearl." Nia sighed, but a smile tugged at her lips. "She's going to critique your suit, you know. She doesn't care how much it costs." "I'll take my chances," Vincent said. Meanwhile, across town, in a dimly lit backroom of a warehouse that smelled of sawdust and desperation, Gregory Fallon was nursing a cheap scotch. He looked terrible. The bags under his eyes were dark purple, and his expensive haircut was growing out shaggy. His credit cards were frozen. His friends weren't returning his texts. He was a pariah. Sitting across from him was a man who looked like a shark in a tracksuit. Sal the Butcher Romano. He was Vincent Moretti's only real competition in the logistics game, and he had been waiting for a crack in Moretti's armor for a decade. "So," Sal said, picking his teeth with a matchstick, "you say Moretti is soft now? Playing house with the help." "He's distracted," Fallon spat, slamming his glass down. "He let a maid humiliate me. He let her beat up a guy inside the house. He's not thinking about business. He's thinking about domestic bliss." Fallon leaned forward, his eyes wild with a mix of fear and vindictiveness. "I know the schedule," Fallon whispered. "I know the shift changes. And I know that on Fridays, the perimeter loosens up because he sends the day crew home early. If you want to hit him, you hit him when he leaves the compound. If you can't stand rats, people who betray others just because they're bitter about their own failures, then you know exactly what kind of slime Fallon is. There is nothing worse than a snitch who sells out a child's safety for revenge. If you believe loyalty is everything and traitors deserve what's coming to them, hit that subscribe button. Don't let the snakes hide in the grass. Comment loyalty first if you're riding with Vincent and Nia." Sal smiled, revealing gold-capped teeth. "You're selling me a route, Fallon. But what do you want?" I want him dead, Fallon hissed. And I want that maid to watch. Sal laughed. You rich boys are so dramatic. But all right. We'll take the route. If Moretti is really slipping, maybe it's time for a change in management. The drive to the Ironbound was surreal. Seeing the Rolls-Royce navigate the potholed streets of Nia's neighborhood was like watching a spaceship land in a cornfield. People on the stoops stopped talking to stare. Nia sat in the passenger seat, tense. You're drawing a lot of attention. I always draw attention, Vincent said, his hand relaxed on the wheel. It keeps people honest. They pulled up to a narrow 3-story brick house with peeling paint. Nia's heart did a little flip. It wasn't much, but it was home. Stay close, Nia said as they got out. Rocco and the security detail were in the SUV behind them. But Nia still scanned the rooftops. They walked up the steps. Nia unlocked the door, and the smell of colored greens and bleach hit them. The scent of her childhood. Grandma, Nia called out. In the kitchen. And take your shoes off. A voice hollered back. Nia smirked at Vincent. He obediently took off his Italian leather shoes, placing them next to Nia's sneakers. Bella followed suit, her eyes wide as she took in the small, cluttered apartment filled with photos and ceramic angels. Grandma Pearl was sitting at the small formica table, snapping beans. She was 80, with skin like crinkled paper and eyes that saw everything. She didn't stand up. So, Pearl said, looking past Nia to Vincent. This is the man causing all the trouble. Vincent bowed his head slightly. Mrs. Thompson. It's an honor. Don't butter me up, boy. I'm not a biscuit, Pearl snapped, but her eyes twinkled. She gestured to a rickety chair. Sit. You too, little one. Bella sat down immediately. Pearl handed her a bean. Snap the ends. Be useful. Bella, who had never done a chore in her life, grinned and snapped the bean. Pearl looked at Vincent. She studied him for a long, uncomfortable minute. You have cold eyes, Pearl said finally. Nia stiffened. Grandma. Hush, girl. I'm talking to the man. Pearl didn't blink. Cold eyes. You've seen death. You've caused it. Vincent didn't flinch. He didn't look away. I have. But your hands are warm, Pearl observed, looking at where his hand rested near Bella's arm on the table. You protect what's yours. I try, Vincent said. Trying isn't doing, Pearl said. My Nia, she's got fire. Too much fire sometimes. She'll burn herself up trying to keep others warm. You watch out for her. You hear me. I hear you, Vincent said solemnly. And I promise you, Pearl, as long as I have breath, no harm will come to her. Pearl nodded, satisfied. Good. Now, Nia, get the man a plate. He looks too skinny. Rich folks never eat enough starch. The visit lasted an hour. For that hour, Vincent Moretti wasn't a mob boss. He was just a guy eating cornbread in a kitchen in Newark, listening to an old woman tell stories about Nia's childhood. But as they left, the sun was setting. The shadows stretched long and thin across the street. She's amazing, Vincent said as they walked back to the car. She's terrified, Nia corrected quietly. She knows who you are, Vincent. She knows what you represent. She was just brave enough not to show it. Vincent stopped at the car door. He looked at Nia. I know. And I respect her for it. He opened the door for her. Bella scrambled into the back seat. Let's go home, Vincent said. They turned onto the main avenue, heading back toward the highway. The security SUV was close behind them. Nia watched the rearview mirror. She had a bad feeling. The streets were too empty for a Friday evening. Vincent, she said, her hand drifting to the door handle. I see it, Vincent said. His voice had shifted. The warmth of Grandma Pearl's kitchen was gone. The wolf was back. A black sedan had pulled out of an alleyway 2 blocks back. It wasn't using its headlights. Rocco, Vincent said into the car's Bluetooth system. Tail. I got him, boss. Rocco's voice crackled over the speakers. We're going to box him out. The security SUV slowed down, creating a buffer between the Rolls-Royce and the sedan. But then, another car shot out from a side street in front of them. A heavy-duty pickup truck with a reinforced grille. It slammed on its brakes, blocking the road. Ambush! Nia shouted, reaching back to shove Bella down toward the floorboard. Get down! Vincent didn't panic. He slammed the car into reverse, tires screeching, executing a J-turn that spun the massive car around 180 degrees. But the black sedan behind them had accelerated. It smashed into Rocco's SUV, sending the security vehicle spinning into a parked car. They hit Rocco. Nia yelled. Hold on! Vincent roared. He gunned the engine, aiming for a gap between the sedan and the sidewalk. The Rolls-Royce surged forward, its V12 engine screaming. Gunfire erupted. Pop, pop, pop. Bullets sparked off the armored glass of the Rolls. Are we bulletproof? Nia asked, her voice tight but not hysterical. The glass is, Vincent gritted out, wrestling the steering wheel as they clipped the sedan's fender. The tires are run-flats. But the engine block isn't invincible. They broke through the blockade, speeding down the industrial corridor. But in the rearview mirror, Nia saw the pickup truck turn and give chase. And behind it, two motorcycles appeared, weaving through traffic. They're persistent, Vincent muttered. He reached into the center console and pulled out a heavy handgun. He held it out to Nia. Do you know how to use this? Nia looked at the gun. It was cold, heavy and lethal. She thought of the contract she signed. Hazard pay. She took it. She racked the slide just like Rocco had taught her. Point and squeeze, Nia said. Don't roll down the window unless you have a shot, Vincent commanded. We need to get to the bridge. Once we cross the bridge, we're in my territory. The cops there are on my payroll. The motorcycles were gaining. One of the riders raised a submachine gun. Bella, stay down. Nia screamed. The back window spiderwebbed as a spray of bullets hit it. The glass held, but the sound was terrifying. Bella screamed, a high-pitched sound of pure terror. That scream did something to Nia. It flipped a switch. Slow down, Nia said. What? Vincent shouted, glancing at her. Slow down. They're right on the bumper. If I'm going to shoot, I need a steady platform. Slow down. Vincent trusted her. He didn't argue. He tapped the brakes. The Rolls-Royce lurched. The motorcycle, caught off guard by the sudden deceleration, swerved right next to Nia's window. Nia hit the button. The heavy glass slid down 6 inches. She didn't hesitate. She didn't think about morality. She thought about the little girl screaming in the back seat. She thrust the gun out of the crack and fired 3 times. 2 missed. The third hit the rider's front tire. The motorcycle wobbled violently, the tire blowing out. The bike flipped, skidding across the pavement in a shower of sparks, taking the second rider down with it. Nice shot, Vincent yelled, flooring the gas again. Nia rolled the window up, her hands shaking uncontrollably now that the moment was over. I think I hit him. You saved us, Vincent said. They tore onto the on-ramp for the bridge. The pickup truck was still behind them, but it was losing ground against the superior speed of the Phantom. Vincent picked up his phone. Rocco. Status. Static. Then a cough. We're banged up, boss. But we're mobile. We're engaging the truck. Go. Get her home. Clear the mess, Rocco. And find out who sent them. It was Sal Romano's crew, Rocco said, his voice pained. I saw the colors. And boss. Fallon was in the passenger seat of the truck. Vincent's eyes went wide. Then they narrowed into slits of pure, unadulterated hate. Fallon, he whispered. He looked over at Nia, who was kneeling on her seat, reaching back to stroke Bella's hair, whispering soothing words to the terrified child. It's over, baby. We're safe. Nia got the bad guys. We're safe. Vincent gripped the steering wheel until his knuckles turned white. Not yet, Vincent said to himself. But we will be. They crossed the bridge, the lights of the mansion visible in the distance on the hill. They had survived the ambush. But the war had just officially been declared. Vincent reached over and placed his hand over Nia's hand, which was resting on her knee, still clutching the gun. "You didn't freeze," he said. "I told you," Nia said, looking at him, her eyes fierce and dark. Grandma Pearl didn't raise a flincher. "No," Vincent said, a dark admiration coloring his tone. "She raised a queen." The wrought iron gates of the Moretti estate slammed shut with a clang that echoed like a prison door. Security lights flooded the driveway, turning the rain-slicked asphalt into a blinding sheet of white. The Rolls-Royce, now bearing the scars of 3 bullet impacts on the rear glass and a scraped fender, glided to a halt in front of the main entrance. Vincent didn't wait for the valet. He threw his door open and was around the car in a second, ripping the back door open. He scooped Bella out of the seat. She wasn't screaming anymore. She had gone terrifyingly limp, burying her face in his neck, her small body trembling with silent hiccups. Nia climbed out slowly. Her legs felt like water. The gun was still in her hand. She looked down at it, the dark metal contrasting against her palm, and realized she was gripping it so hard her fingers were cramping. "Nia." Vincent's voice was sharp. She looked up. He was standing on the steps, holding Bella, looking at her with an intensity that burned. "Give the weapon to the guard. Come inside. Now." Nia handed the gun to the nearest security officer, who looked at her with wide-eyed respect and followed Vincent inside. The foyer was a hive of activity. Men with assault rifles were moving furniture, barricading windows, and setting up choke points. The Temple of Power had become a bunker. Vincent didn't stop moving until they reached the nursery. He sat on the edge of the bed, rocking Bella back and forth. Nia stood in the doorway, watching. She felt like an intruder in a moment of intimate grief, yet she couldn't look away. "Is she okay?" Nia asked softly. "She's in shock," Vincent said, his voice rough. "She's seen things no 7-year-old should see. Again." He looked up at Nia. "You need to check yourself. Did you get hit by glass?" "I'm fine," Nia said, brushing a shard of safety glass from her shoulder. "Just shaken." "Stay with her," Vincent commanded, standing up. The father vanished. The dawn returned. "I have to go down to the war room. Rocco is inbound with the medical team. Don't leave this room. If anyone who isn't me or Rocco opens it, you don't open it. If they try to force it, you use the panic button by the bed." "Vincent," Nia said, stepping forward. Fallon was in the truck. Vincent paused at the door. His back was to her, his shoulders broad and tense as a coiled spring. "I know," he said. The temperature in the room seemed to plummet. "And he has made his last mistake." Down in the basement, the atmosphere was thick with cigar smoke and the metallic scent of blood. Rocco sat on a medical table, his shirt off, while a private doctor stitched a jagged gash in his shoulder. "It's a graze, boss," Rocco grunted as Vincent entered. "Through and through." The SUV took the brunt of it. Vincent paced the room like a caged tiger. "Sal Romano. I knew he was hungry, but I didn't think he was stupid." "He's not stupid," Rocco winced as the needle pulled tight. "He's an opportunist. Fallon bankrolled him. Sal provides the muscle, and Fallon provides the intel on your movements." Vincent stopped pacing. He slammed his hand onto the metal table, making the instruments jump. "Fallon doesn't have intel. He has a grudge. He's guessing." "He guessed right tonight," Rocco pointed out quietly. "Friday night. The grandmother visits. He knows your routine, Vincent." Vincent stared at the wall map of New Jersey, marked with territories and supply lines. "Fallon is a parasite," Vincent muttered. "He leeches off his father's name, and now he's leeching off Sal's reputation because he's too weak to stand on his own. If you can't stand weak men, people who can't fight their own battles so they pay others to do their dirty work, then you know exactly what kind of scum Gregory Fallon is. Real strength isn't about money. It's about accountability. If you believe that cowards who hide behind hired guns deserve to be exposed, hit that subscribe button. Leave a comment saying, "No hiding," if you want to see Fallon face the music personally. "What's the play, boss?" Rocco asked, shrugging on a fresh shirt over his bandages. "We go to the mattresses? Lock down Newark." "No," Vincent said slowly. "If we lock down, we look afraid. Sal wants a war of attrition. He wants me to hide in my castle while he picks off my trucks and buys my politicians." Vincent turned around, a cold, predatory smile forming on his lips. "Fallon wants to play big shot? Fine. We're going to give him the stage." "How?" "We invite him to a sit-down," Vincent said. "A surrender." Rocco's eyes widened. "You're going to surrender?" "I'm going to offer a surrender," Vincent corrected. "I'll send word that the attack on my daughter crossed a line. That I'm broken. That I'm willing to cede the port contracts to Sal if they leave my family alone." "Sal won't believe it," Rocco said. "He knows you're too proud." "Sal won't," Vincent agreed. "But Fallon will. Fallon is arrogant. He thinks he broke me tonight. He thinks he won. His ego will force Sal to the table. And when they get there—" Vincent picked up a heavy brass lighter from the table, flicking it open and closed. Click, click, click. "When they get there," Vincent whispered, "we remind them why you don't hunt wolves in their own woods." 2 hours later, the house was quiet. The storm outside had passed, leaving a heavy, damp silence. Nia was sitting in the armchair in the nursery. Bella was finally asleep, clutching her teddy bear so tightly her knuckles were white. The door creaked open. Nia didn't jump. She knew the tread of those footsteps by now. Vincent walked in. He had showered and changed into dark slacks and a black t-shirt. He looked less like a billionaire and more like a brawler. He carried 2 tumblers of amber liquid. He held one out to Nia. "I still don't drink on the job, Vincent," she whispered. "You're off the clock," he said, sitting on the floor near her chair, his back against the wall. "And you need it. Your hands are still shaking." Nia looked at her hands. He was right. She took the glass. The bourbon burned on the way down, a welcome fire to chase away the chill of the night. "Is she out?" Vincent asked, nodding toward the bed. "Finally," Nia said. "She asked if the bad men were coming back." "What did you tell her?" "I told her that her dad is the scariest thing in the dark, so the bad men are running away." Vincent let out a short, dry laugh. He swirled his drink, staring into the amber depths. "Is that what you think? That I'm a monster?" Nia looked at him. She saw the exhaustion etched into his face, the weight of the empire he carried, and the terrified love he held for his daughter. "I think you're a man who lives in a violent world," Nia said carefully. "And tonight, I was glad you were the monster. Because if you were a saint, we'd all be dead on that highway." Vincent looked up at her. His eyes searched hers in the dim light. "You shot a man tonight, Nia." "I aimed for the tire," she defended weakly. "You shot at a moving target to save my life," Vincent said. "Do you understand what that means? In my world, you crossed a line. You can't uncross it. The police, the feds, the rivals. To them, you aren't the nanny anymore. You're an accomplice." "I know," Nia said. She took another sip of bourbon. "I realized that when I picked up the gun." "I can get you out," Vincent said suddenly. "I have a plane. I can send you and your family to Europe. Money, new identities. You'd be safe." Nia stared at him. "Is that what you want? To send me away?" Vincent didn't answer immediately. He looked at Bella sleeping. Then he looked back at Nia, and the mask slipped completely. "No," he admitted, his voice rough. "It's the last thing I want. You're the only light in this house. But I have to offer. Because what comes next? It's going to be ugly." Nia leaned forward. She placed her hand on his shoulder. It was a bold move, touching the boss, but the lines had blurred miles ago on the turnpike. "I'm from Newark, Vincent," she said. "We don't run when things get ugly. We board up the windows and we wait for the storm." She squeezed his shoulder. "I'm staying. I'm seeing this through. Fallon tried to hurt that little girl. I'm not leaving until I know he can't ever do it again." Vincent placed his hand over hers. His skin was warm, his grip firm. "Okay," he whispered. "Okay." They sat there for a long time in the quiet dark, the maid and the mob boss, bound by violence and a sleeping child. Finally, Vincent stood up. The moment of vulnerability was boxed away, stored for later. The wolf was back in charge. "Get some sleep," he said. "Tomorrow we set the table." For what? For the last meal Gregory Fallon will ever eat in this town. The next morning, the invitation was sent by courier. Cream-colored cardstock, gold lettering. It looked like a wedding invitation, but the message inside was a funeral dirge for pride. Mr. Romano and Mr. Fallon, we acknowledge the shift in leverage. Let us discuss the terms of the transition of the Port Newark logistical contracts. Midnight. The old ironworks foundry. Come alone. We will do the same. V. Moretti. It was bait. Obvious bait. But Vincent knew his prey. Sal Romano was greedy. He wanted the ports. Fallon was vain. He wanted to see Vincent kneel. Preparation began immediately. Nia found herself in the armory, a room behind the wine cellar she hadn't known existed. Rocco was loading magazines. Vincent was cleaning a semi-automatic rifle. "I'm coming," Nia said from the doorway. Vincent didn't look up. "No. I'm the reason Fallon is unhinged," she argued. "He hates me more than he hates you. If he sees me there, he'll be distracted. He'll be sloppy." "It's too dangerous," Vincent snapped. "You said I was an accomplice," Nia shot back. "You said I'm part of the family now. Well, families fight together." She walked over and picked up a sleek, compact pistol from the table. "Besides," she added, checking the weight of it, "you need someone to watch your back while you're watching Sal." Rocco looked at Vincent. He gave a barely perceptible shrug. "She's got a point, boss." Vincent sighed, putting down the rifle. He walked over to Nia. He took the gun from her hand, checked the safety, and handed it back. "You stay in the shadows," he ordered. "You don't reveal yourself unless things go sideways. And if I say run, you run. You don't look back. You get to the car, and you leave me. Do you understand?" Nia didn't answer the second part. She just nodded. "I understand." Midnight. The ironworks foundry. The foundry was a rusted skeleton of Newark's industrial past. Moonlight filtered through the broken skylights, illuminating the massive, silent machinery. Vincent stood in the center of the floor, wearing his signature black suit. He looked calm, almost bored. He was alone, or so it seemed. A heavy metal door groaned open. Sal Romano walked in, flanked by 4 heavily armed guards. And beside him, strutting like a peacock in a designer trench coat, was Gregory Fallon. "Vincent!" Fallon called out, his voice echoing in the cavernous space. "How the mighty have fallen! Standing in the dirt like the rest of us." "We all return to the dirt eventually, Gregory," Vincent said, his voice steady. Sal stepped forward, chomping on a cigar. "Cut the poetry. Where are the contracts?" "In the briefcase." Vincent gestured to a metal case on a rusted oil drum between them. Fallon laughed. He walked forward, eager to claim his prize. He opened the case. It was empty. Fallon's face dropped. "What is this?" "That," Vincent said, "is the amount of respect I have for you." Sal narrowed his eyes. He sensed the trap. He reached for his gun. "It's a set." Click. Floodlights slammed on from the catwalks above, blinding Sal and his men. "Drop them." Rocco's voice boomed from the darkness above. Dozens of red laser dots appeared on Sal's chest, on Fallon's forehead, and on the guards. Vincent had brought the entire army. Sal froze. He slowly raised his hands. He was a businessman. He knew when a deal had gone bad. But Fallon. Fallon cracked. "No." Fallon screamed. He pulled a snub-nosed revolver from his coat pocket. He didn't aim at Vincent. He didn't aim at the snipers. He aimed at the shadows where he had seen movement. He aimed at Nia. Nia stepped out from behind a pillar, her gun raised. "Drop it, Fallon," she said, her voice steady. "You!" Fallon shrieked, his eyes bulging. "You ruined everything. A maid. A nobody." "I'm the woman who stopped you," Nia said. "Gregory, put the gun down," Vincent said, his voice low and terrifying. "You're done." I'm not done until she's dead, Fallon yelled. His finger tightened on the trigger. Everything happened at once. Vincent lunged. Not at Fallon, but across the line of fire, placing his body between the gun and Nia. Bang! The shot echoed like a cannon blast. Vincent jerked back, clutching his side. Nia screamed. Vincent! The snipers opened fire. The foundry exploded into chaos. The sharp crack of sniper fire from the catwalks was deafening in the cavernous space. Sal Romano's guards dropped instantly, neutralized with surgical precision before they could even raise their weapons. Sal himself threw his hands up and dropped to his knees, shouting surrender, savvy enough to know when the game was over. But Gregory Fallon stood frozen, the revolver smoking in his hand, staring at Vincent Moretti. Vincent staggered but didn't fall. His hand was pressed to his side, dark blood seeping rapidly through his fingers, staining his white shirt crimson. Vincent! Nia screamed again, abandoning her cover. She sprinted across the concrete floor, sliding to her knees beside him just as he sagged against an oil drum. I'm okay, Vincent gritted out through clenched teeth, his face draining of color. It's just a scratch. It wasn't a scratch. Nia could see the blood pulsing. Fallon looked at the gun in his hand, then at the laser sights now dancing on his chest. He looked at Nia holding Vincent. And finally the arrogance broke. The rich boy facade shattered, leaving only a terrified, pathetic man. I didn't mean. Fallon stammered, backing away. Rocco. Vincent barked, ignoring his wound. Secure him. Rocco rappelled down from the catwalk, landing heavily. He didn't bother with handcuffs. He walked up to Fallon and delivered a right hook that could have felled a tree. Fallon crumpled to the floor, unconscious before he hit the concrete. The shooting stopped. The silence that followed was broken only by Vincent's labored breathing. We need a medic. Nia yelled to Rocco. He's hit bad. I'm fine, Vincent insisted, trying to stand and failing. He slumped back, his head lolling. Check, Sal. Make sure. Sal is secure, boss, Rocco said, rushing over. He ripped open a medical pack. Let me see. Rocco lifted Vincent's shirt. The bullet had hit him in the lower abdomen, just above the hip. It missed the vitals, but he's losing blood fast, Rocco assessed grimly. We need to get him to the private clinic. Now. The car is outside, Nia said, grabbing Vincent's other arm. Help me get him up. They hauled Vincent to his feet. He groaned, a sound of pure agony that tore at Nia's heart. Stay with me, Vincent, she commanded, her voice fierce. You don't get to die. Not after all this. You hear me. Vincent looked at her, his eyes hazy but focused on her face. A faint, bloody smile touched his lips. Yes, ma'am. The drive to the clinic was a blur of speeding lights and Nia pressing a towel to Vincent's side, her hands slick with his blood. He drifted in and out of consciousness, muttering about Bella, about the contracts, about the rain. Sure, Nia soothed, brushing hair off his sweaty forehead. Save your strength. Just breathe. When they arrived, the medical team was waiting. They swarmed the car, pulling Vincent onto a gurney. Wait in the lobby, a doctor ordered Nia as they wheeled him through the double doors. I'm staying with him. Nia argued. You're covered in blood, and you're not sterile, the doctor snapped. Wait here. The doors swung shut. Nia was left standing in the brightly lit hallway, alone. She looked down at her clothes. Her gray suit was ruined. Her hands were red. She sank into a plastic chair, the adrenaline finally crashing. She put her head in her hands and shook. Please, she prayed to God, to the universe, to Grandma Pearl Spirit. Please don't let him die. Bella needs him. I need him. 3 hours later. The waiting room was quiet. Rocco sat opposite Nia, staring at the floor. He had cleaned up, but he looked 10 years older. Sal Romano is in a cell, Rocco said quietly. He's talking. He's giving up everyone who conspired against the family. The war is over, Nia. We won. Did we? Nia asked hollowly, looking at the closed doors. If Vincent dies. He won't die, Rocco said firmly. He's too stubborn. The doors opened. A doctor in green scrubs walked out, pulling off his mask. Nia and Rocco stood up simultaneously. He's stable, the doctor said. Nia let out a breath that felt like a sob. The bullet nicked an artery, which caused the blood loss, but we repaired it. No organ damage. He's lucky. Another inch to the left and we'd be having a different conversation. Can I see him? Nia asked. He's in recovery. He's groggy from the anesthesia, but he's asking for you. Nia didn't wait. She walked past the doctor and into the recovery room. Vincent was lying in the bed, hooked up to monitors. He looked pale against the white sheets, but his chest was rising and falling steadily. Nia walked to the bedside. She reached out and took his hand. Vincent's eyes fluttered open. He focused on her, blinking slowly. "Hey," he rasped. "Hey yourself," Nia whispered, smiling through tears. "You really know how to make a scene, don't you?" "Had to protect the asset," Vincent murmured, a ghost of his dry wit returning. "I'm not an asset, Vincent," Nia said softly. "No," Vincent agreed, squeezing her hand weakly. "You're not." He closed his eyes for a moment, gathering strength. "Fallon." "Rocco has him," Nia said. "And Sal." "It's done, Vincent. It's over." Vincent nodded slightly. "Good." He looked at her again, his gaze clearer now. "Nia." "Yeah. When I jumped, I wasn't thinking about the business. Or the war." "I know," Nia said. "I was thinking that I couldn't let Bella grow up without the person who makes her smile," Vincent said. Nia's heart hammered. "She needs her father, Vincent." "She needs a mother," Vincent corrected softly. The word hung in the air, heavy and terrifying and beautiful. Nia stared at him. The Mafia boss. The king of Newark. The man who had just taken a bullet for her. "Get some sleep, Vincent," she whispered, leaning down to kiss his forehead. "We can talk about family trees when you're not high on morphine." Vincent smiled, his eyes drifting shut. "Deal." 6 months later. The Moretti estate was transformed. The silence was gone for good. In the backyard, a massive garden party was in full swing. Not a gala for politicians, but a barbecue. There were burgers on the grill, music playing from speakers, and children running on the lawn. Bella was chasing a golden retriever puppy, laughing shrieks that echoed off the mansion walls. She wore jeans and a t-shirt covered in grass stains. Nia stood on the patio, watching her. She wasn't wearing a uniform. She wasn't wearing a suit. She was wearing a summer dress, light and airy. "She's fast," a voice said behind her. Nia turned. Vincent stood there. He had healed well, though he walked with a slight stiffness on rainy days. He wasn't wearing a tie. He looked relaxed, happy. "She gets it from you," Nia said. Vincent stepped up beside her, wrapping an arm around her waist. He pulled her close, kissing her temple. "And the stubbornness?" he asked. "Oh, that's all you," Nia laughed. They watched the scene. Grandma Pearl was sitting in a lawn chair, holding court with Rocco, lecturing him on the proper way to marinate ribs. Rocco looked terrified and fascinated. "You know," Vincent said, looking at the crowd, "Fallon's trial starts next week." "I know," Nia said. "I'm testifying." "You don't have to," Vincent said protectively. "The DA has had enough with Sal's confession." "I want to," Nia said firmly. "I want him to see me. I want him to see that he didn't break us. He just welded us together." Vincent smiled. He turned her to face him. "You saved us, Nia. You know that, right? You saved this whole family." "We saved each other," Nia corrected. Vincent reached into his pocket. He pulled out a small velvet box. Nia's breath hitched. "I know we haven't been doing this long," Vincent said, looking nervous for the first time since she'd met him. "And I know my life is complicated. But I also know that I don't want to do it without you. And neither does Bella." He opened the box. A diamond, simple and elegant, sparkled in the sunlight. "Nia Thompson," Vincent said. "Will you make this official? Will you be the queen of this chaotic kingdom? Nia looked at the ring. She looked at Bella playing in the grass. She looked at Grandma Pearl laughing with the hitman. And she looked at Vincent, the monster who had learned to love. Life gone try to kneecap you every week, Grandma Pearl had said. But looking at Vincent, Nia knew she wouldn't be standing alone anymore. She smiled, tears pricking her eyes. Ask me again after I try Rocco's ribs, she teased. Vincent laughed. He pulled her in and kissed her. Deep and full of promise. Yes, she whispered against his lips. Yes, I will. And in the distance, Bella stopped running, looked at them and cheered.
Thank you for watching this story to the end. If you enjoyed this story, you will surely love the next one. It's as crazy and intriguing as you can ever imagine. So do check it out.